Hi there, it is Seanikinz again, coming at you with another video. This is the quick guide to understanding Ruby Criminal Boltz E, and it involves a spreadsheet. But don't worry, there's no maths involved. All you have to do is type in some numbers that you already know, and you'll get the exact numbers that you want out. So, without further ado, I want you to click in the description and open up this file here. This is the Ruby Criminal Boltz E Google Doc. And I want you to follow the instructions, and I'm going to run you through them now. Step 1, click File, make a copy, and then click OK, just there. Once you've done that, you'll end up with a copy of it in a new tab, and you'll be able to use this all your own without disruption, because sometimes there are people in here, and if you put in your own calculations and stuff, and then they take theirs, and then it messes it up. So having your own copy is really, really good. Step number 2. In cell B2, highlighted in yellow, put in the NPC's max life points. So we're looking at cell B2, and the NPC that we want to be doing their max life points. So I've just got the example of 100,000. So for example, Araxi, if I wanted to put 200,000, then I could click enter on that. Boom, the sheet updates. If I wanted to put 700 million, I don't know, the sheet updates. So there you go. If I wanted to put 12k NPC, and so on and so forth, the sheet updates. So you can kind of play around with this and see how Ruby bolts interact with the life points of different NPCs. So I'm just going to use Raksha as a good example in a solo instance with 800,000. And in column I, highlighted in blue, fill in your max and current HP, and then use the drop-down lists to select your active damage modifiers. Now you may be thinking, hang on a minute, current HP, this changes all the time. Well yes, this is a general guide to where you think you would be comfortable having your HP at during a fight to kind of juice the Darrick's Relic, as it is colloquially known, but the actual term for it is Berserker's Fury. And essentially it will give up to a 5% damage boost the lower your HP. So currently it's at 2%, so if my HP is at 1 out of 900, boom, I get 5%. But if I'm at full HP, I get a 0. And the same with all these other things here. So I could be on Reckless Aura, that gives me 10%, Marjorak gives me 5%, Other gives me no percent. Am I in a Death Swiftness? This is a big one, 50%. If I'm not, look what happens to the graph. The chart, sorry. Obviously, rubies become far less effective earlier on in the fight. So I would highly advise, if you want to stay camping your rubies for longer, Death Swiftness when you know you're around the threshold where they become less effective. Needle Strike, this is a difficult one. It's a 7% buff. You have to be proccing your rubies 2 ticks after casting Needle Strike. So this can obviously be very RNG gated, so I wouldn't count on it. So for now, I'm going to say no. Overloads, we have Regular, Supreme, and Elder, depending on your level. I have not included Super Potions or Grand War Masters. However, if this is something that people would like, I can certainly do this. And this number here is the amount of hit points extra that will be added on to your damage. Obviously, we've covered Berserker's Fury, so if we're on no, then we get nothing. But if we say yes and we lower our HP a little bit, boom, we get our buff. Pocket Slot, Grimoire. This is a big one, because currently our soft cap is at 15k, but if we use a Superior Scrimshaw of Cruelty, our soft cap drops to 10k. And also, we're only hitting 12ks now, opposed to 15s. So this is rather interesting. So you can see that using a Grimoire, even though it actually doesn't give you a damage boost, it will still allow you to use rubies for longer and actually allow you to hit a lot harder with them. But let's say you only have a basic Scrimshaw of Cruelty, you haven't even unlocked Porch yet, you get 5%, which is actually what I have. Now for prayers, I know these are actually curses, but we have Anguish and Desolation. I wouldn't advise going into a boss fight without them, therefore there is no option to have nothing there. This will give you 12%, and this one will give you 10. So there we go, that's our total damage buff of 0.57 out of 1 or 57%. So what does all this mean? Well, essentially we're looking here. Currently our rubies are critting 12k, 12k, 12k until we hit 240,000 life points. And then all of a sudden at 160,000 life points, we can get a ruby proc and it will only hit the 6,467 damage with this particular setup. If I change a few things, so for example, if I'm not using a Death Swiftness, boom, I'm only hitting a 4,000. But if I am using Death Swiftness, that goes up quite a lot. So, we need to work out when is the general correct time at this particular boss to change bolts. Well, this is where the custom HP comes in. Let's say, for example, that I want to start swapping when I'm critting below 8,000. Well, what we can do is we can say, well, we're 160 here and 240, so let's go in the middle. Let's see how hard we end up hitting at 200,000. Okay, so we're hitting 8k. That's actually awesome. So if I go down to 190, I'm hitting this much. But then let's say this is provided that I'm in a Death Swiftness. So I say, okay, at Raksha, I know with this setup that I probably should switch at 200,000 life points if I'm in a Death Swiftness. But if I'm not in a Death Swiftness, and also if I was using an Aura, if I'm not in a Death Swiftness, I'm only going to be hitting 5,000, so I really need to be increasing this quite a lot. So 320 there, let's put this up to 300,000 life points. And there we go. So really anything below, let's try 280,000. So probably anything below 290 is going to be worth switching for. And the switches can be many things. You could switch to Diamond Bolts, you could switch to Dragonstone, you could switch to Hydrix Bolts, Onyx Bolts, just anything else. Some of these are actually giving you a damage boost as well of up to 15, maybe even 25%. Others, like the Hydrix Bolts, give you extra adrenaline. So this is obviously a much better trade-off than losing damage as you go through the fight. And obviously this works with every NPC in the game. So if you do Rax, for example, this is a pretty big deal because, of course, after 50%, there's a massive drop. So using Death Swiftness at Rax in the halfway points and making sure you've got all these buffs on is pretty important. And finally, let's chuck a Grimoire on there. So you can see here, really you need to be swapping at the halfway point at Rax. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you've got any questions, and if you really enjoyed this content and you want to see more, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. I will see you in the next one.